70-something rabbis, we don't know the exact number, and he made the Septuagint, which means 70. And the Septuagint was because he had 70 rabbis translate the Old Testament so that it could weed out bias and error, and they would merge the 70 translations into one so they could get an accurate translation. We have since found the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were older, but not by much. I think they were 200 or 300 years old. So now we have the original Old Testament material in the original Hebrew, and we've compared them. You don't need to change your translations. The Septuagint is spot on. It was an amazing translation. In other words, he pulled it off. The mob goes to the Jewish quarter and just begins massacring the Jews. When they're done destroying the Jewish quarter, which won't be inhabited again for another 1,500 years, they then go and try to find the pagans. The problem with the pagans is they were intermingled with the Christians. So you just literally had to knock on doors and go, "Are you pagan?" Pretty much everybody is going to deny it. So then you go, "Who are your pagan neighbors?" And then, right now you can find out. Because people will rat each other out. It's hilarious. Just ask the Yugoslavs when they decided to kill each other in Bosnia-Herzegovina. They then go to the Great Library. The Great Library was run by a woman named Hypatia. Hypatia wasn't actually technically a pagan. She was a theist, so she did believe that there was an entity who created the universe, a single entity. But she didn't think that anybody could know its nature, so she rejected Christianity. But the majority of the students at the Great Library and the majority of the professors at the Great Library were, in fact, pagan. And so the mob decides to get rid of the Great Library, and they destroy it. But we, as a society, get lucky, because before they destroyed it, by a few decades, there was a Persian emperor who got jealous of the Great Library. His name was Shapur the Great. Shapur wanted his own Great Library. He defeats a Roman emperor, Valerian. He captures 2 intact Roman legions. He sells one into slavery in China, takes the money from the sale, and then he uses that money and orders the Roman legions to build him 2 brand new cities. One of them is Gondishapur. In Gondishapur, he builds an academy that will be the Persian equivalent to the Great Library. And he starts collecting books. He's having trouble getting Roman books because the Romans and the Persians hate each other so much, but he's having no trouble getting Chinese texts and Indian texts. And so he's adding those to the Persian knowledge. Lao Tzu, he gets Lao Tzu, one of the greatest philosophers in human history. Not him, but his books, right? Lao Tzu is 600 years earlier. But he gets his books, which is amazing, because when Qin the Great unifies India, he bans Lao Tzu and starts wiping out Lao Tzu's works. But now there's a place for them to survive. When the Great Library is burnt, a group of Romans decide to recover, and they do it at the Academy of Athens. When they do this at the Academy of Athens, that gets banned. So they get some of the books together at the Academy, but Emperor Justinian goes, "Nah, we got rid of the Great Library. We don't need an academy to replace it." Those Greek scholars in 529, when the academy is banned, grab all their books. They jump on a ship. They head to Syria. They cross Syria. They get to what would roughly be the Iraq-Syria border today. It was roughly where the Roman-Persian border was. And they approach the Persians and they say, "We want asylum." And the Persians go, "Yeah, of course. Who would want to live under Roman rule anyway? These guys are crazy." And they go, "Yeah, not for us only. We want asylum for our books." And the Persians go, "Your books?" And they go, "Yeah, we're bringing everything we have left that hasn't been burnt by Christian mobs." And the Persians go, "Oh, come with us." And they take them to Gondishapur, and they take all those books and they merge them in. Emperor Khusro is the guy who does this. So now at Gondishapur, they have all these Roman and Greek and Egyptian works, and they're sitting there with all these Chinese and Persian and Indian works. And they kind of recovered the loss of the Great Library a little bit. Rome and Persia keep fighting. They do one giant slugfest in the early 600s. It's a nasty, brutal affair. The Persians capture Turkey, Syria, Palestine, Egypt. It looks like Rome is going to go down in a ball of flames. But the Romans somehow get out of it, in part because one of the Persian generals decides to rebel. He takes the chunk of Rome that he captured. He creates a third little empire. Eventually he invades Persia, overthrows the Persian emperor, becomes the new Persian emperor, and is stabbed to death a few days later. And the Romans are like, wow, whew, because militarily it was touch and go there for a while. And then something amazing happens. There's a new religion. And it's Islam. The Prophet Muhammad dies in 632. That year, the Caliph, his follower, the first ruler after the Prophet, orders that the Arabian Peninsula be conquered and unified. For the first time in Arab history, the Arabian Peninsula was ruled by a single state within a year. That same year, 633, Abu Bakr launches 2 armies at the same time, simultaneously. One into the Persian Empire, one into the Roman Empire. Outnumbered, outmanned, out-technologied. There's no way the Arabs should prevail. Within a few decades, they completely conquer the Persian Empire. It was 1,200 years old at that point. Can you imagine a 1,200-year-old empire? You can't comprehend it not being there. They bring the Romans to their knees. They don't finish them off. But by the time they're done, so from 633, the moment they start the conquering, to 711, the moment they've conquered Spain, they owned everything from Pakistan to Spain and Central Asia. They built the largest empire in human history in just a few decades. 60% of the world's Christian population. The empire itself was 2% Muslim, but it owned 60% of the world's Christians. It was an empire of Buddhists and Hindus. There were even some pagans hanging around, and Zoroastrians. The Arabs were a strange conqueror population because they weren't forcibly converting people by the sword. They weren't mass genociding whole populations. They weren't enslaving 1/3 of Gaul. They did fight in France, just for the record. 725? That's the year stuck in my head. It's probably wrong. The Battle of Tours, also known as the Battle of Poitiers, against Charles Martel. And the French win, just for the record. But the Arabs, as they were retreating, carved off Narbonne and continued to rule a piece of France for a few centuries. These Arabs were actually were humble. So when they conquered Persia, they went to the Persians and they went, dude, we don't know how to run an empire. This is way over our pay grade. We just started ruling ourselves. We don't know what we're doing here. You guys are amazing at this. What we need you to do is keep running the empire. We don't even know how to mint coins. The first Arab coins show 3 men standing next to each other. They're holding a cross in one hand and a globe with a cross sticking out of it. So they got a cross in both hands. Because they took the Roman mint and they just began counterfeiting Roman coins. In fact, the word fulus, which is the word for money, comes from the Roman folus, which was one of the coins that they were counterfeiting.